Todd, I think we have a good chunk of people here if we want to get started.
All right, good. Well, we've already got started on the Q&A, Andrew. So this is good. Now, Ernie's made me feel better because I struggled a little bit too to figure out what my username was. I got it on about the third pop, but I didn't get it the first time either. So I get that. Just want to welcome everybody here and thank everybody for jumping on. I think just sort of as promised, and I want to thank Andrew and team as well. When we started, talking about this project with various groups of staff and faculty back in probably March, April, one of the things I expressed was important to me was that as we got closer to the date and people started having more practical questions in particular about how this was going to look to them and what they may have to deal with to accomplish the transition, I wanted to be sure that we provided resources for that. And I want to thank the team for having done that. You've seen the sets of emails, obviously, the last few days that have kept us all apprised of progress here. And I think really much of the information today is going to be pretty practical in nature, Andrew, if I'm not wrong. Just making sure, obviously, if there are remaining questions folks have about what they need to do and how they need to do it, there'll be the opportunity for that. But I suspect that, Andrew will give us a little bit of a presentation here that might anticipate many of those questions. And so maybe without further ado, Andrew, why don't you go ahead and take it away and make sure we have time for that Q&A.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually just have a short slide deck we're going to go through today here real quick. For some of you, the first few slides might be redundant. Some of you have seen me make this presentation in the past. Others that have not, I'm just going to briefly touch on some preliminary information as far as the migration. Then we're going to dive into how the data was migrated, how to get access, and then really what to expect on Friday, which we've put out there. Friday is our cutover day for this migration. So we'll talk a little bit about what we can expect on Friday and over the weekend and going into the following week. So very first, real quick, just a high-level overview of this project. Our goal is to implement Microsoft 365 for all of SUNY Poly as the email services of record, or as the primary email services for the campus. That project includes transferring all of the Gmail-based data. And when I talk about Gmail and the data being migrated, it's strictly Gmail data in your mailbox. So any email contacts or calendar data, all of if you have Google Docs or anything else within Google applications, that will all remain within the Google environment. Then we have a subset of users that are based here in Albany that have all of their data housed in on-premise Exchange. So part of this migration is taking into account all of that data, migrating it off of the on-premise servers and up into the cloud, into the Microsoft 365 tenant, and then updating the mail flow so that mail is being delivered to the appropriate places, being the actual Microsoft 365 mailbox for the users that have been migrated. One thing I do want to point out is that I stress this a lot because this is one of the largest questions, or one of the most regular questions I get is, will I still be able to get into Google after this migration? And I just want to stress, because I think it's definitely something that's important to a lot of our users. We are not taking the Google environment away. Google Docs will still be there for faculty, staff, and students to utilize. All of the Google applications that are a part of our Google Apps for Education environment will still be available for each user to use. The primary change right here is we are simply rerouting and delivering mail into our Microsoft 365 environment instead of our Google and the Gmail mailboxes. So stepping forward, why are we migrating? One of the questions that I've seen actually in just the chat here shortly, is why are we migrating to Microsoft 365? Well, there's a whole slew of reasons, and I won't go into the details, but I'll just touch real lightly on the high level reasons why we're changing. Our mail flow, the way our mail is being routed through our environment right now, is extremely complicated because of the merging of the two institutions with SUNY IT and CNSE. So that mail flow, the direction and the paths that goes, creates a lot of challenges from a troubleshooting and support standpoint. Also, what a lot of our users are experiencing is a different user interface or a different environment. For example, our users in Albany primarily use the Outlook email client, whereas our users in Utica primarily use the Gmail web interface for accessing their email. Having these two separate environments creates a large number of collaboration challenges between users on both sites, anywhere from sharing a departmental mailbox to sharing calendars to even looking, something as simple as looking up a user's email address that's on a different site. That can be a challenge by maintaining two separate email environments in the way that we have. One of the things that's especially important in this post-pandemic life is information security. I mean, a lot of the security issues we've been seeing lately around the country and around the world are a result of poorly secured email environments, phishing attempts, these types of things. By migrating to Microsoft 365, we have the ability to lock down the environment a little bit better to provide more data security, as well as ensure that our data is stored on US-based servers. So we're not dealing with potentially any export control information, especially as it relates to our research data. Service reliability, one of the biggest challenges that we faced historically with the Gmail environment is that it was all heavily dependent upon on-site, on-campus servers for authentication and use of that email environment. The way we've built out this Microsoft 365 tenant is that in the event that either campus, whether it be Utica or Albany, has an internet problem, has a power issue, has a system down issue that's affecting the entire campus, it's not going to take down email. Email will still flow. Users will still be able to log into their Microsoft 365 mailboxes in a secure fashion, regardless of what resources are functioning or not functioning on the campus themselves. SUNY Central support future integrations has to do with trying to keep in line with what the SUNY system as a whole is doing, as far as the majority of the other SUNY campuses and the development work that's taking place at SUNY Central right now to support things that are currently rolling out, whether it be vaccine trackers or various academic related programs that SUNY Central is rolling out to all the campuses via SharePoint or via Microsoft services. And then lastly is the maintenance expense. You know, with the maintaining on-premise mail servers just isn't a financially viable solution anymore, just because of the expenses that are involved with it. And by migrating securely into the cloud, it allows us to appreciate some of the savings that we receive as being a part of an academic institution. So these are a large number of reasons which have pushed SUNY Poly to migrate into Microsoft 365 for email services going forward. So the big question is, where's my data? How's it getting there? How am I going to know if I have all of it? So one of the methods that we took is we took a multiple pass data migration path. First, we outlined all of the users that were going to be migrated, and then we kicked off a data migration for any mail that was 90 days and older. We then subsequently did multiple passes with this, truing the data up as we get closer to the final the final cutover date. Then what'll happen is on Friday, after we make the actual changes and migrate the final settings to Microsoft 365, we'll initiate the final pass of data migration. So what that's going to mean to you as an end user, when you log into Microsoft 365 right now, or Outlook on the web right now, you're going to see data from whether it's your Gmail box or your Exchange on-premise mailbox. You're going to see the data there, but you're not going to see the data 100% up to date right now if you were to log in today. All of your data will be trued up and migrated to the final to the Microsoft 365 environment post that cutover time at 6 a.m. on Friday. So throughout Friday, you'll see data starting to migrate into your environment that if you log in at 10 o'clock in the morning, you might see more of your data there by 2 in the afternoon. It's just going to depend on how long it takes us to transfer all of that data, which based on this multiple pass data migration should be relatively quick because we've already migrated the vast majority of the data into the environment. For those of us out there like myself that are statistic geeks, just for everybody's knowledge, we've migrated roughly 7,500 mailboxes into the new environment to the tune of about 14 terabyte of data that's come over so far. So the big question I get is, how do I access email? Now, I mentioned earlier that the vast majority of users within Utica on the Utica campus utilize the web interface for Gmail currently. Well, Outlook for Web or Microsoft 365 has a web interface as well. That is available. You can see right here on the screen, outlook.sunypoly.edu will take you right to that. You'll enter your username, which is your SITNet. You have to enter the SUNY Poly domain name along with that, and then you'll put in your SITNet password. Now, one of the questions that I have gotten is this going to affect how we change our passwords in the future? And the answer is no. For changing your SITNet password, you'll still go to Banner self-service, just like we always have in the past. If users haven't reset their password in a while and they've forgotten how to do it, feel free to reach out to the help desk, and I'll have some of that contact information towards the end of this presentation, as they can definitely give you the directions on how to reset your password. If, for example, you've forgotten it or forgotten how to reset it, we can definitely assist with that. Now, as far as availability, that is, all of this service is available right now. Anybody right now can go ahead and log into Outlook for the web for the very first time. The very first time, it's going to ask you some information and ask you a phone number so that you can set up multi-factor authentication. What this allows for is a second pass of authenticating a user into the environment to add more security. This is going to cut down on a large number of the phishing attempts that we've seen historically on campus. I believe a good portion of us have received from potentially someone we know that's asking for gift cards or things like that. Multi-factor authentication is the number one stop right out of the gate to eliminate a lot of those struggles. Now, for the users in Albany, as well as anybody using a mobile device, you're all likely using different email clients in order to access your email. Vast majority of users in Albany, for example, are using Microsoft Outlook to connect to their mailboxes. They'll still be able to use Outlook, as well as anybody in Utica that would like to use Outlook, or any mail client for that matter that's compatible with Microsoft 365. You'll be able to utilize those to interface with your mailbox. The setup instructions, we're finishing up on that. Some of the screenshots we're not going to be able to actually take until after we've made the migration Friday morning. So those setup instructions will be posted to the email migration website, which I will show you at the end of this presentation. That'll show you instructions on how to connect, for instance, an Android mobile device, an Apple mobile device, and or your standard desktop email clients, whether it be Outlook or Thunderbird or or whatever your email client of choice is. Again, that's going to be available. You'll be able to start setting those up at the latest Friday morning. And our IT staff will be available to assist with that as well. So stepping forward real quick, for those that are unfamiliar with Outlook or Outlook on the web, it formerly was called Outlook Web Access. This is the primary web interface for your Microsoft 365 Outlook environment. There's a whole number of different settings. You can see on the left of the screen here, we have links to Word, Excel, all of those applications that are available as a part of our Microsoft 365 subscription as well. And this will be kind of your main portal or your main point to access all of your email communication. This, as I mentioned, this is available right now. Anyone that has their SITNet and password can walk through the process of logging into this. And just like you see with my mailbox, I actually took the screenshot from my mailbox this morning. You can see my last email in here was from Sunday. So what'll happen is on Friday, once we kick off that final data migration, it will true up all the data to the point where we make the migration. So any data that's remaining in your Gmail box or on-premise Exchange mailbox will be migrated into the Microsoft 365 environment on Friday, and you'll start to see that populate within your mailbox within Microsoft 365. One thing I will point out, just because it's kind of the trade-off that we face when we try to transfer as much data as we can to begin with. For example, I'm personally, I categorize my emails and organize my emails in different folders within my mailbox. If I had gone through and organized some messages that were, for instance, from last week prior to Sunday, say for instance, I did it today. Well, when that message trues up on Friday, it may not see that actual move take place already. So you might have deleted a message in the past already that you find again in your Microsoft mailbox. And that's simply due to one of the processes that we go through when we try to migrate the data ahead of time this quickly. Stepping forward here. Cutover day, what to expect. So my staff is actually going to be starting this kickoff, this migration at 6 a.m. in the morning. We have staff that will be on site as early as 5 a.m. on Friday to start this process. And just to give you a little background, the reason we're starting so early with this migration is because this has a large impact to both sites, both Utica as well as Albany. And we have some times in Albany for different events that take place around 7:30 a.m. So we want to get the cutover taken care of prior to that. And also so that when people come into work or start their day bright and early Friday morning, that a good portion of this work has already been completed. Now, going with that, we have DNS entries that we're going to have to change. We have mail flow testing that we have to do, and then we have to initiate the final data migration. One other thing that I'll point out that I forgot to mention in the last slide is that, or in 2 slides ago, as a part of this data migration to keep everything up to date, the tools that we utilize don't actually transfer any calendar entries or contact entries until the final data migration. So you'll notice all of your contacts being updated on Friday once that kicks off, as well as all of your calendar entries. If you had any meeting invites in your calendars, those will all be migrated over Friday as well. Now, with any email migration like this, the internet, just the way the internet works, DNS and mail flow changes take time to replicate across the world. We estimate it could take up to 12 hours. We've made some changes in the environment, which we expect that mail will be flowing into the Microsoft 365 environment prior to people coming to work on Friday. However, if the mail sender is from or is on a mail system that doesn't update their MX records or their DNS regularly, it could be delayed. And when that happens, you won't lose your email, you won't miss your email. But what'll happen is the mail message could be delivered into your Gmail box or into your Microsoft 365 mailbox. That's why we initiate the final data migration after we make these changes, so that in the event you do have mail that's on Friday morning that's still delivered into your Gmail box, we want to make sure we migrate all of that data as well. Outlook for the web, as I mentioned on the last slide, is accessible currently. You can log in. And matter of fact, I urge people to log in between today and tomorrow ahead of time to make sure you can get in okay. The help desk is available to support anybody that's having trouble. I'll list the contact information here in a couple of slides to request support if you have a question or you are having problems.
I don't see the slides. I don't see anything. Are you in share slides, or is it supposed to show on the side of the screen?
I'm sharing the slide. Do you see the cutover day, what to expect slide?
No, I don't see any slide other than your puss.
Okay. All right. Well, I apologize about that.
They are showing, I can see them. This is Kathy. I just want to say that's, I don't know why they're not showing up for Ernie, but Andrew, you shared.
Yeah.
Correctly.
Thank you, Kathy. Ernie, I will send you personally, I'll send you a copy of the slide deck so you can have it, so you can see it as well.
Okay. I don't know why. I mean, I've used share slide many times and I have no problem. I teach with share slides and they always share, but I'm not sharing online.
All right. All right. Last question or last bullet on here is we will have IT staff on site and available to assist between now and Friday as well, and then on into next week. Now, post cutover, different tasks that are going to be taking place both within ITS and what I would recommend end users do. ITS tasks for post cutover are monitoring the resources and availability of our environment, assisting end users with questions and or changes, provide campus migration update, monitor mail flow, and then some cleanup administrative stuff with web and print documentation, and then new user processes changes with HR. As far as end users, what you all can do on migration day and subsequent days thereafter is I urge everybody to log into, even if you're not going to use Gmail into the future because we've migrated to Microsoft 365, I urge you to log into both environments so you can verify for your own comfort that we have transferred all your data and the data is there as you would expect. We're also going to need post cutover to update any email clients that you utilize, whether that be an iPhone, an Android, a tablet, or an email client on a desktop or a laptop. All of those will need to be updated. The IT staff is available to assist in the event that you do. And then one other piece that I wanted to point out is because we are changing from two dissimilar email environments and migrating into Microsoft 365, permissions such as shared calendars and or shared mailboxes aren't migrated as a part of that process. So one of the things that we'll need to do, for example, I share my calendar with a good portion of my staff. I'm going to need to go in and set up that sharing and make sure that sharing is set up again in order for my staff to be able to see my calendar. The same will need to happen with end users if they are connecting to a shared mailbox or if they want to provide shared calendar access to someone else. My IT staff the help desk staff can definitely assist with this process and can help do a lot of that work for you as you're going through it. Where you're going to see this most is I see Mary Beth is on the call as well. She's got a number of shared mailboxes and shared calendars that she connects to. Different users and different parts of the organization are going to have different requirements. So whatever the issue is, our help desk will be there to assist. So training and support. So SUNY Poly has on our main webpage, we have an email migration page, which contains all sorts of information and videos about this migration, as well as how to access, how to utilize some of the Microsoft applications. I've also included a link to Microsoft 365 training directly from Microsoft. They have a large number of training videos on there that are available to us and available to end users to help you learn all of the applications that are now available to our end users via the Microsoft 365 products. And then, of course, our help desk. A lot of you may notice, especially the Albany-based users may notice that this is the Utica help desk phone number, and this is the Utica help desk email address. That's where any support for this Microsoft 365 environment will be taking place, is with our help desk staff within Utica. So I posted up the phone number as well as the webpage and email address there to be able to submit or place a call for support in the event you have an issue. Post-migration, or even if you have a question pre-migration, we will do our absolute best to assist. So that was pretty much it. I know I ran through a lot of information. I see some questions stacking up here. So I will start by going through some of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat, and then we can go from there. If anybody has questions, feel free to raise your hand and I can take your questions live as well. So it looks like Jacob had a question about why we decided to move to Microsoft 365. I believe I answered that, Jacob, in the previous slides, but if you have any specific questions about that, be more than happy to answer them for you. If you'd like, you can get a hold of us just emailing the help desk. Let's see here. If I already have a Poly Google account, do I still have to use that? Michelle, the answer is no. You do not have to use your Poly Gmail account going forward after the migration, because all new mail will be delivered into the Microsoft 365 mailbox. Student accounts are included in this migration as well. That is a question that's a question that a user had. Let's see here, Janet. I assume most forwarded to Outlook, see files that were deleted on Outlook but were kept in Gmail. Janet, your assumption is correct. If I missed it, I can definitely come back to that. Sean, thank you for pointing out the information. Showing up, sorry. Is shared the same as delegated? Rebecca, that's actually a very good question. Microsoft and Google have different naming conventions for their different functions, and you're exactly right. A shared mailbox in Microsoft 365 is the same as a delegated mailbox within Gmail. Robert, I see you had to go. I'll definitely send you a copy of it. We use Google Groups as a mailing list. This is a question from Andy Russell. For example, email to faculty and adjunct faculty. Will these be available after the migration? In migrating the mail environment, we're also migrating a lot of those listservs. Andy, and we can definitely assist with migrating those Google Groups into the Microsoft 365 environment, so it's nice and seamless for you. Definitely, I'll have one of the staff reach out to you specifically, and we can work with you on that. Kathy Dunn, most of us exchange accounts as primary email, but the new system sitting at. So Kathy, to answer your question about your email address, any of the Albany-based users, and a lot of you may notice Albany-based users have a first initial last name as their prefix for their email address, whereas the Gmail users have their SITNET at SUNY Poly as the prefix. We can add, or we have added, let me rephrase that, we have added the Albany Exchange mailbox addresses as aliases to the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 mailbox. Long story short, that your original email address won't be deactivated. It'll be delivered into your Microsoft mailbox, just like any mail sent to the Gmail address or the SITNet address as well.
I have a follow-up before you move on then, because if you moved all of the rules over at the same time, that's going to be a hideous loop, because I currently have it set up for one to forward to the other. And if now you're forwarding to the other one, it's going to be mass proliferation, right?
So we've taken that into account. And when you change the mail flow, your mail messages won't actually hit the Gmail box. I'm assuming you have your mail forwarding from Gmail into your Exchange mailbox. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So once we change that MX record to change mail flow Friday morning, mail will no longer be delivered into the Google environment or into your Gmail box. So therefore, it wouldn't hit that forwarding rule. But to your point, we also have a number of loop prevention settings set up in the environment. So in the event that we do see a loop, where a good example of this would be users that are remaining on on-premise Exchange and not migrating to Microsoft 365, their communication with people in Microsoft 365 has the potential for a loop as well, just because of it's all the same domain name. We've got all of that accounted for. So as far as your specific forward out of Gmail, I don't have any specific concerns about that. But if you see anything that you have a question on post-migration, definitely reach out to us and we can help troubleshoot it with you for sure.
Okay, great, thanks.
Not a problem. Eric had a question. Will first initial last name address still work? Yes, that's very similar to what I just addressed with Kathy. That'll be an alias within your Microsoft 365 account. Mark, Mark brings up a good point. So a little bit of history here. Going back probably 4 or 5 years, Microsoft offered or at the time, Office 365 accounts to all faculty and students of higher education institutions. At that time, when we were SUNY IT still, we had the Office 365 tenant for sunyit.edu. And a lot of users historically may have utilized that. Even though we never officially rolled it out, it was available for use if people had access to it. If you did use OneDrive or anything within that environment to store data, that environment is still there, it's still live, and working directly with you one-on-one, we can assist you in migrating any data that you have in that environment into the new Microsoft 365 environment, the SUNY Poly environment. But yes, you'll still have access to that. You'd still log in using the sunyit.edu login that you likely used in the past, but we can assist with that. So it looks like we are, just to reiterate, we are maintaining all access to Google applications. They are not going away. You'll still be able to log into Google the same way that you have in the past. It'll take you to the CAS login page. You'll enter your SITNet and password, and then be able to access all of the Google apps, whether they be Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Drive, whatever specific application you're working with. Google Maps work without having to sign out of. So Google Maps, Mark, to your question about Google Maps, that's not a part of the Google Apps for Education licensing that SUNY has in their contract. That's why it's not available in the SUNY Poly Gmail environment, because we're not licensed for it. So that will remain the same. That's not anything that's going to change. So yes, to use Google Maps, you would have to log out of that. Let's see here. If you're no longer sending messages through email, but yes, Melissa and everybody else on this call, we'll send out a copy of this this presentation as well as the slide deck to all of the users so that you can see it as well. Steve Ferentz has a question. If I manage other accounts such as emails, will I have access the same to do so in the new environment? Yes, Steve, to answer your question, the answer is yes. However, we may need to work with you directly to make sure you have access and get into those other mailboxes. Mark has a question about a VoIP phone number associated with it. At this time, we're not rolling out any VoIP services via Microsoft 365. It may be something we look into in the future, but right as of this migration right now, we're strictly focusing on email migration. Ernie had a question, will favorites migrate? So Ernie, that has to do with your web browser and not necessarily email. So there wouldn't be anything to migrate there. It would still, if you have any favorites saved in your web browser, they would still be there after the fact. John, reach out to the help desk. He had a question about changing a shared office mailbox. We can definitely do that. There are some caveats that we need to talk about with that one-on-one with you, because any past users using the CA at sunypoly.edu email address, we're going to want to make sure you still get that data. So we can set that up for you, but we will need to have a conversation about that. Let's see here. Lori, you might have to do HTTPS in front of Outlook for sunypoly.edu. That's where that potential security risk is coming from. After being a student, do students have access to the email account? So Zoe had a question about how long students have access to mailboxes after they leave the organization or leave the college. And right now, what happens is users, or when students graduate and become alumni, they still have access. Whether or not that policy changes or how that gets changed in the future, I don't have visibility into yet. But that's definitely something that, something we need to talk about, or we can talk about. So I think I got through all of the chat questions. I see a couple of people with their, yes, Ernie.
Yeah, so I have a Google account, which is called mail.sunycnsc.com. What do you call that? Is that called a Google online account, and my question is, will that still be working?
So are you talking about your mail client on your mobile device or on your desktop?
No, on my computer, on my desktop. I sign on to mail.sunycnsc.com, and I have a Google icon that I click to open. Yeah, and all my email is on there. Will that still be working, or it's gone?
So Ernie, what I'm assuming you're talking about is you have Google Chrome as your browser, and then you have a link to mail.sunycnsc.com.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So with that being said, you'll technically still be able to access that. However, all of your email post Friday will be delivered to your Microsoft 365 mailbox. So what we can do is we can assist you with changing that shortcut to point to outlook.sunypoly.edu instead of mail.sunycnsc.com.
I see. But I won't be able. So all my mail will go to the new Microsoft 365.
Correct.
And okay. I think that was it. I have to set this up individually for each computer, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Let's see here. Aaron Swanka, you're top on my screen. So if you want to unmute and ask your question, I can definitely.
Yes. So thank you. So everyone who has a delegated email account, is there going to be any issues with the multi-factor authentication setup? Meaning, because they usually only have one. So if there's 5 people delegated to it, how do you set up the 5?
Yeah. So the multi-factor authentication, that's a good question, Aaron. The multi-factor authentication is for logging into your account specifically. And then the difference between Microsoft 365 and how they interact with shared accounts versus delegated accounts in Gmail is that the permissions are happening on the back end. So when you log into your Outlook for web mailbox, you'll then be able to open the other mailbox without having to re-authenticate. Therefore, it eliminates that multi-factor need in that moment because the security and the permissions to that shared account are handled on the back end. Long story short, you're only going to have to authenticate with MFA once, and you'll be able to access all of those mailboxes. The same goes for any other users that have access to that shared mailbox. They would use MFA to access their mailbox first and then be able to get into the shared mailbox from there.
Do we currently have access to that now, or does that all take place on Friday?
So as far as your primary mailbox, you have access to it now. I'd have to take a look and see where we are with the permissioning set up on shared mailboxes. I don't have that specific answer yet. You can try it, but it might not be completed as of yet.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. All right, Naren, you're next on my hand up list.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for the presentation. I have two related questions regarding forwarding of email. One is about does Microsoft 365 allow forwarding of sunypoly.edu email to external accounts? And the other question is, how does forwarding work for internal email addresses within the sunypoly.edu? For example, we have an email irb@sunypoly.edu that forwards email to that address to 3 or 4 of us who work for on the IRB. Is that something that needs to be reconfigured? That's about the internal forwarding. And about the first question, does Office 365 allow us to do this kind of forwarding to external email?
So to answer your question, I'm going to take it from the backwards and go forward. So your IRB mailbox, that is a Google group right now. So basically, in a nutshell, what that does is that takes any mail sent to that address and then forwards a copy to all the users on the recipients. In Microsoft 365, that's referred to as a distribution group, and we can assist with setting that up and showing you how to manage that as well. So that's, that'll answer that question. As far as email forwarding within Microsoft itself, especially due to the New York State as well as SUNY security policies, Microsoft 365 our Microsoft 365 environment does not allow for blanket server-based mail forwarding for a specific email account. If a user decides to forward mail out after that, once it's received in the mailbox, any kind of forwarding set up with that is fine. But the original destination has to be that Microsoft 365 mailbox. And that has to do with the security requirements that were passed down to us from both New York State as well as SUNY, as well as just a best practices to ensure that all of the SUNY data is actually stored in the SUNY environment and not elsewhere.
Okay, thanks. So should I put in a help desk ticket for this reconfiguring this internal distributional list?
Yep, absolutely. And we can definitely assist you with that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Next up, it looks, Gretchen, looks like you have a question. If you want to unmute.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate this this happening. So I have two major questions. The first one is regarding alumni. So as far as I'm aware, alumni have lifetime access as long as we pay the fee. So how can alumni who don't currently check their email regularly enough to see that this is happening, if they log into their Google account, how will they know that we've moved to 365?
So that's actually a very good question. And one of the tricky things that we are going to do prior to migration, and I say tricky, it's really not tricky, it's just us trying to cover all of our bases. It's not only alumni that we expect to see this from, but I expect to see it from students as well as potentially other users within the environment that haven't necessarily over the summer read their email or paid attention or concerned themselves with what was going on campus. prior to the email migration, prior to the cutover, we're going to be sending an email, a final email to everybody's Gmail box saying this, we're starting the cutover right now, basically in a nutshell. We're starting the cutover right now. And from this point forward, you need to access your email here. And that'll include the link to the Outlook environment. Or the Outlook on the web with Microsoft 365. The other thing we'll have in there is contact information for the help desk in the event that they have any trouble getting into it. They can definitely reach out to the help desk. One thing that I want to point out as well that goes along with this is a lot of times SUNY Poly as an organization right now has a password policy of 1 year. So the password has to be reset every year. If an alumni, we especially see this with alumni, if they're not using their Gmail, or I'm sorry, their SUNY Poly mail on a regular basis, and they haven't changed their password within a year, their account will be suspended and then eventually purged. But in the event that they do want access to that mailbox, or they didn't like Google in the past and want to use Microsoft, whatever the case may be, they can always reach out to the help desk as well. And we can work with the alumni department and make sure we can get them back in.
Awesome, thank you. And then my second question there was, are there plans currently to get rid of Google eventually, like completely purge that environment?
Not right at the moment. We recognize as an organization that we have a large number of business processes that are built utilizing the Google applications right now. And that's definitely not something that we could think about doing at all until we have a lot of those business processes changed.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, let me see if I can get caught up on some of these chat questions. So Vicky had a question about downloading applications to personal computers. Yes, with Microsoft 365, you can download the applications and license the Microsoft applications through this Microsoft 365 tenant. I personally have not done it yet, so I can't tell you exactly how easy that is, but it's definitely something that we'll provide information on doing in the event that a student does not have access to, for instance, Word or Excel, PowerPoint, those types of things. Let's see here. So Janet had a question about students that are no longer here. It's similar to the alumni question. Yes, they will follow the same steps as current students. In the event that their password is expired, because it's been a year since they've changed it, they'll need to reset their password. That'll reinitiate their account. But if they have any problems, those former students can definitely reach out to the help desk. Who do I need to contact to change my username on Outlook? And it doesn't apply. So Zoo, if you reach out to HR and include me on the email, the system of record for the campus is Banner. So all of the user accounts and all of that information actually is housed in Banner and then flows to the rest of these systems. If you're looking to have a common name changed or something to that effect, that would have to be done from the HR level, but if you want to include me in the email on that, I can assist with that process. So Ernie, you had a question about getting Outlook on your computer. With this, you can download the actual Outlook application. We can assist you with that. If we want to set up a time, we can actually help you with that, getting that set up either remotely or locally here on campus.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I have two, I work from my home and I have two home computers. Can I get Outlook loaded onto my home computers, or at least one of them?
Yeah, so what we can do is we can assist you remotely, connect remotely into your computer and assist on getting that installed. If you submit a help desk ticket, we can definitely get that set up for you.
Okay, I did, and they said I have to buy Office.
Okay.
I don't know what they mean by that.
Okay, what I'll do is, was it the Albany Help Desk that you had contacted?
Yes, it was CNSE Help.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll follow up with them as well as the help desk in Utica and make sure you get taken care of.
Okay, what will they do? They'll take over my computer and
Yes.
download Outlook. How will I hear from them?
They'll email you.
Okay.
All right,
Yep. Please do that. Thank you.
no problem.
Yeah,
Let's see here. It looks like Isaac had a question about adding extensions to Microsoft 365, depending on the extension and depending on its impact on the environment. If, for instance, if it's a local extension, that shouldn't be an issue. If it's a global extension that needs to be added, that's the IT is definitely going to have to be involved with that to assist. Chris. Let's see here. In regards to folders and filters in the email, so one thing as far, just so everybody understands, or I can clarify a little bit easier, Gmail and Microsoft 365 handle mail organization a little bit differently. In Gmail, when you try to categorize a mail message, you're actually flagging the mail. Versus filing it in a folder, whereas in Microsoft 365, you're filing it in a folder. Anyone that's migrating from Gmail and has those flags already set up in Gmail, when their data was migrated into Microsoft 365, Microsoft interprets those flags as subfolders under the main inbox. So if you had, for example, a flag set up as spam in Gmail, all of that data should be visible in your spam folder in your Exchange, in your Microsoft 365 mailbox. Any filters on email will likely need to be redone because the majority of the time that data is stored in different areas, whether it's the web interface or on an actual application itself. If you want to reach out to the help desk, we can assist you with resetting those back up. Isaac has a question. What will happen to our Office 365 access if it's linked to one of the expiring accounts? I would assume that that's in reference to a Microsoft 365 account that was signed up for using your Gmail address. I'm not exactly sure what that specific question is, if it's referencing, but definitely reach out to the help desk. We can definitely answer any question as it relates to that. I'm assuming that's what you meant, but. All right, I believe I got through all on the chat. Does anybody else have any questions that I may be able to answer for you?
Sure, I'll throw one more out there. What if I want to keep using Google? Can I do that?
The Google applications will still be there. Google applications will still be accessible to all SUNY Poly faculty, staff, and students. You can utilize the Google applications, but recognizing that no mail will be delivered into that Gmail environment. So, for example, if you attempted to send a mail message out of your Gmail box, any reply would be likely delivered to your Microsoft 365 mailbox.
In effect, we can't use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the point is to migrate away from Gmail.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Ron has a question about Visio and Microsoft 365. So Ron, the way Microsoft licenses their products, Visio is actually a separate license. We do own licensing for Visio, and if you're looking to get a copy of that, reach out to the help desk and we can definitely assist with that.
I have one more question. Sorry.
No problem.
I've actually just logged into Outlook, and I know everything will not be completed until Saturday at the most. But I see these kind of exclamation mark on all my emails, and I'm not sure what that is.
I'm not sure what that is either, because I haven't necessarily experienced or seen what exactly you're seeing. But if you want to take a screenshot and send it to helpdesk@sunypoly.edu, the staff can definitely take a look at the screenshot and explain what it is you're seeing.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Right. I absolutely appreciate everybody taking their time this afternoon to listen to me ramble on about this. It's been a very, very long process and migration for us. And we're definitely looking forward to Friday and getting through this migration again. I will have staff on campus on Friday as well as all next week to be able to assist and support anybody that has any questions or problems. I'll have staff on site on both campuses actually. So definitely please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. And that most updated information will be on that SUNY Poly /emailmigration.html webpage. So if you're looking for instructions on how to access things, how to get in, you can definitely look right there to be able to get that information. All right, and with that being said, if nobody has any more questions, oh, Brad, sorry, Brad had one last question, set up email on our phones. Yes, we would recommend waiting until Friday, at least Friday mid-morning or afternoon to set up email on your phone, because that way you'll know that DNS is all migrated and everything's setting up correctly so you can access that. If you do try your mobile device right now, some mobile devices will work without issue. Other mobile devices need to see certain settings change, which won't take place until Friday. So hopefully that answered your question. But with that being said, again, thank you everybody for attending today. We will share this presentation slide deck as well as the video of this presentation on the webpage and in a mailer for any users that might have missed this. But thank you everybody for your time today. And with that said, I think I will call this closed.